You ever heard that dog is man's best friend? What do you think? Do you agree? Let's take a look at the dogs in our lives and everything that they do for us. Dogs have been by our sides for thousands of years. Even when people lived in caves long ago, dogs were there. By the edge of the firelight, they kept watch for dangers that could be hiding in the dark. Today, dogs still protect us from strangers who want to harm us. If someone breaks into our house, a dog will tell them, with a growl and a bark, to go away. No one wants to be bitten by a dog. On the farm, dogs work hard too. Foxes cannot get our chickens if there is a dog around. Some dogs are good at herding sheep and cows. Dogs are very clever, aren't they? In the land of ice and snow, dogs pull people and things on sleds. Dogs have very strong noses. They can find people lost in the snow and keep them warm until help arrives. Some dogs have jobs just like people. Dogs work for the police, with firemen, and even the army. These brave dogs do many dangerous things to help keep us safe from harm. Dogs love to play. Some dogs race, some dogs swim, some dogs hunt, and some dogs chase and catch sticks. If you have a dog to play with, you will never be bored. Most of all, dogs are loyal and loving and warm. Big or small, they are always happy to see us and are always by our side. They will walk 100 miles to be with us. Now, do you believe that dogs are man's best friend? I do.
Looked proudly at the Mark 10 he had earned at school. He wanted to show Dad.
Mom, why has Dad not come home?
He asked. Min's dad was a fisherman. When the fishing boat went out, Dad and the other fishermen went with it. They were away from their homes in the sea village of Kanhoa for 1 to 2 months at a time. They fished in the East Sea among the Truong Sa Islands. Mom spoke gently to Min. Dad will come home soon. We have to be patient. Dad and the crew were fishing near Truong Sa Island. They caught a lot of fish, so they were all happy. It was almost time for the boat to return home.
Storm! And it's a big one!
Said Dad after receiving a warning call from the Vietnam Coast radio station system. The crew understood. This was a dangerous storm. They must quickly bring the boat to land. The sky was already growing dark as the men turned the boat toward one of the islands. Soon, the wind picked up and the air suddenly became very cool. The waves grew bigger and the boat began to roll from side to side. As the crew struggled to hold the boat on course, the storm grew even fiercer. The force of a single great wave snapped the boat's rudder. Now, with no way of steering the boat, the fate of the fishermen was left to the mercy of the wind and sea. Strong winds drove the boat through the darkness. The waves of the sea stood high and threw themselves over the bow. To the men, it seemed as though an angry sky and sea raged together against the little boat that provided their only shelter. Min's dad and the others worked frantically to bail the water from the boat to prevent it from sinking. But the sea poured in faster than the men could pour it back out. Suddenly, a fierce wave rose and crashed against the boat, causing a big crack on its starboard side. It was about to sink. Some of the fishermen hurried to climb up onto the cabin of the boat. Others jumped into the sea. The storm was so strong that even Min's dad, who was an experienced fisherman, could not save the boat. Everyone sadly watched the boat sink into the sea.
Oh man, I promised him his own bicycle if he made a high mark at school. But perhaps I can't keep my promise,
thought Dad. After hours floating in the tempest-tossed sea, the men were hungry and thirsty. Some of them were injured, and most were exhausted from battling the waves. A rescue boat was their only hope. Time was running out. Suddenly, Dad thought he heard the sound of an engine. As the ship came into view, he could see the flag of Vietnam flying.
We're saved!
Dad cried to the others. The Truong Sa seamen had arrived. The fishermen's urgent cries for help were answered by the approach of a rescue ship. The ship was equipped with ropes and life preservers. The seamen worked bravely and quickly to rescue the fishermen from the stormy waters. The Truong Sa seamen pulled the fishermen one by one from the angry waves. They did not stop until every fisherman had been saved. It was late afternoon. News of the storm and rescue had reached Kanhoa and Min and his mom. Min and Mom waited excitedly at the dock for the Navy ship. Min watched eagerly as the ship approached. Suddenly, he spotted Dad on the deck of the ship, waving at him. It seems that Min had to wait forever for the ship to dock, but finally, Dad was off the ship. Min ran to Dad and threw his arms around him.
I'm so happy you're home, Dad,
he said.
Thanks to these brave seamen,
laughed Dad, nodding toward the uniformed men also coming off the ship.
if it hadn't been for the Truong Sa seamen, I could not have come home.
Min stepped toward a seaman standing nearby and said,
Thank you for saving my dad's life.
Smiling, the seaman replied,
You're welcome, little boy. It's our job to protect Vietnam's islands from bad people and to keep Vietnamese people safe.
I want to be a seaman too. I want to help keep Vietnam's people safe,
said Min. The seaman smiled and said,
Oh, little boy, I believe that one day you will become a brave, strong seaman.
Was a young girl named Mara who lived with her stepmother, Farah, and her stepsister, Helen. Farah hated Mara, for she was far prettier than Helen. Mara couldn't understand why her stepmother disliked her. She gave all the hardest chores to Mara. Meanwhile, Helen relaxed. Even though life was hard, Mara never complained. Over time, Mara's beauty increased, and Helen became uglier. We have to get rid of Mara, Farah whispered to Helen. One day, Helen went to Mara with a seemingly impossible task.
Sister, climb the mountain and find me violets. They must be fresh and sweet-scented.
But it's winter,
Mara replied.
Don't disobey me.
Helen snapped.
Bring violets or be punished.
Farah pushed Mara outside. Mara hiked through thick snow until she became lost. Then she saw a light in the distance. Mara followed the light to the top of the mountain. There she saw 12 strange beings sitting around a fire on 12 blocks of stone. They were the 12 months.
Excuse me?
Mara said. January turned and spoke to her.
What brings you here?
I'm looking for violets.
Mara replied.
This isn't the season for violets.
January answered.
My sister ordered me to bring violets from your mountain. If I return without them, I'll be punished.
Mara explained. January turned to another month, gave him his wand, and said,
March, assist her.
March waved the wand over the fire. Flames rose to the sky. Snow melted, and the grass became green. It was spring, and the meadows were covered with violets.
Gather quickly, Mira,
said March. Mara picked the flowers, then hurried home. Helen was astonished.
Where did you find them?
Asked Helen.
On the mountain?
Said Mara. The next day, Helen had another task.
Fetch strawberries from the mountain,
Helen said,
or you'll be punished.
Before she could argue, Farah pushed Mara outside. Mara climbed the mountain and met the 12 months.
What do you seek?
January asked.
I'm looking for strawberries.
She replied.
This isn't the season for strawberries,
January said.
I know,
Mara sadly replied.
but if I don't return with strawberries, I'll be punished.
January gave June his wand and said,
June, help her.
June obeyed, waving the wand over the fire. Flames leaped to the sky. Snow melted, and it became summer. Strawberries grew next to Mara's feet.
Gather quickly, Mira,
said June. Mara thanked the months, gathered strawberries, and hurried home to Helen.
Where did you find them?
Asked Helen crossly.
In the mountains,
answered Mara. The next day, it was apples that Helen requested, and September who came to Mara's aid. Yet he only gave her 2 apples to return with.
Where did you gather them?
Asked Helen.
There's more on the mountaintop,
answered Mara.
Then why bring only 2?
Helen shouted.
Mother,
said Helen,
we'll fetch more apples.
Helen and Farah climbed to the top of the mountain, where they met the 12 months. Helen warmed her hands by their fire. She didn't ask permission, nor speak politely.
What do you seek?
January asked.
I don't have to tell you,
Helen yelled. That's right, Farah angrily agreed. January frowned and waved his wand. The fire went out and snow fell in large flakes. Helen and Farah became hopelessly lost in the snow and never found their way home. The next morning, Mara was awoken by a familiar voice whispering in her ear. It was January.
The house and all the land surrounding it is yours now, Mara. You were kind and polite to your elders and sought no reward, and yet now you have it.
But what of my stepmother and stepsister?
Mara asked. January smiled at her.
They are safe, but somewhere where they will never hurt you again,
January explained. Mara soon settled into her new life and lived happily ever after.
There was an emperor who loved music. He even collected wind chimes so he could hear their lovely melodies. Next to the palace, there was a large garden where a nightingale lived. A gardener took care of the garden and the nightingale every day. The nightingale sang very beautifully. Its songs made the gardener and other plants happy. One day, the emperor read a book about nightingales and the beautiful songs they sang. He said to himself, "I must have a nightingale." The emperor called his servant and said, "Find a nightingale and bring it to me." While searching for a nightingale, the servant and a guard met the gardener and asked for her help. She smiled and said, "There is a nightingale in the garden. Follow me." Soon they came to the nightingale. It was singing beautiful songs. Hearing that, the servant exclaimed, "Such sweet music!" Then he said to the nightingale, "The emperor really wants to hear you sing. Would you like to come and sing for him?" The nightingale thought for a while and said, "Yes, I will go to the emperor and sing for him." It bid goodbye to the gardener and followed the servant to the emperor. When the emperor saw the nightingale, he said, "Oh, such a small bird. I wonder if you can sing beautiful songs." Just then, the nightingale started to sing. Its sweet songs made the emperor overjoyed. The emperor asked the servant to prepare the finest cage for the nightingale. But the nightingale said, "Please don't lock me up. I promise to come and sing for you every morning." The emperor happily agreed. The courtiers heard about the emperor's love of nightingales. They gave the emperor a mechanical golden bird that could sing as beautifully as the nightingale. The emperor was so excited with the mechanical golden bird. He showed it to the nightingale and said, "Unlike you, this golden bird can sing for me all day." Hearing that, the nightingale felt very sad. The next day, the nightingale decided to leave the palace. But it did not come back to the garden. It decided to live freely in a forest. The gardener was worried about the nightingale. One day, the mechanical golden bird broke and was no longer able to sing. The emperor was sad. He missed the sweet songs of the nightingale, so he ordered his servant to go and look for the nightingale. The servant and the guard went back to the garden and asked the gardener for help, but she sadly replied, "Sorry, I can't help you this time. I don't know where it is." The emperor longed for the nightingale so much that he became ill. One day, while lying in bed, the emperor suddenly heard the nightingale singing. He said to himself, "Is that the little nightingale?" The nightingale had heard that the emperor was sick and missed its beautiful songs, so the nightingale decided to come back and sing for him. The songs of the nightingale made the emperor feel much better. He said to the nightingale, "Oh, my little friend, I'm so sorry for letting you go. Please come and sing for me every morning." The nightingale happily agreed. From then on, the nightingale decided to live in a magnolia tree by the palace window. It kept its promise, singing beautiful songs for the emperor every day.
A god ruled over all the animals in the forest. One summer day, while the god was sleeping, a loud noise woke him up. The god looked down into the forest to see what was going on. He saw a leopard playing a drum. He said to himself, "The sound of the drum is so loud. That must annoy every creature. I need to find a way to stop the leopard." Then the god came up with an idea. The god went to visit the leopard in the forest. "May I play your drum?" the god asked. The leopard shook his head and said, "No, no one can touch my drum." The god asked the leopard several times, but the leopard's answer was always the same. The god decided to wait until the leopard went hunting. Then the god would get the drum, but the leopard did not go hunting that day. The god went to ask the other animals if they could help him to get the drum. The python agreed to help the god. He went to talk to the leopard and said, "Leopard, your drum is beautiful. Can I borrow it to play at my family reunion?" The leopard refused. "Didn't it happen last week?" he asked, chasing the python off with a loud roar. Next, the elephant offered to help. He was confident that the leopard would listen to him. The elephant went to the leopard's home. He asked the leopard if he could borrow the drum for a party. The leopard did not believe the elephant. He said, "I will bring the drum to your party tomorrow, but not now." Then he growled and chased the elephant away. This time, a tortoise offered to try and get the drum for the god. All the other animals laughed at the tortoise, but the tortoise did not care and went to find the leopard. When the tortoise found the leopard, she said, "I think your drum is too small to join our music festival tomorrow night." The leopard replied with confidence, "No way! My drum is the biggest one in the forest." The tortoise smiled and said, "It is because you have not seen the god's drum. It is much bigger than yours. Even a leopard can sit in it." Angrily, the leopard decided to prove that his drum was bigger than the god's. He went to sit inside his own drum. The tortoise had already prepared a big lid in advance. She trapped the leopard inside his drum. Then the tortoise rolled the drum to the god. The god and all the animals were overjoyed when they saw the tortoise come back with the drum. The tortoise took the lid off the drum and the leopard jumped out. He was very dizzy. The leopard felt that the drum was more trouble than it was worth. He decided to go away. After the leopard was gone, the god saw that the tortoise had been hurt while rolling the drum to him. The god felt very sorry for the tortoise. To thank the tortoise, the god gave her a hard shell. The shell would protect the tortoise and would give her a safe place to live. The god took the drum home. He decided to use the drum for warning animals when a storm was on the way. Then the animals would have time to find shelter before the rain and wind arrived.
Nam's family has an enormous farm that grows dragon fruits. Every day, Nam helps his parents harvest the ripe fruits after class. Nam is so proud of the farm and tells his friends about it all the time.
Look at these delicious dragon fruit. By tomorrow, they will have been shipped to all parts of Vietnam and even exported overseas.
Nam carefully put the fresh and aromatic dragon fruits into the basket and said,
"These baskets will be bought and taken away by traders really soon."
What? No more trading?
Dad's loud voice was full of shock, which startled Mom and Nam. The phone in his hand slipped and fell onto the ground, and his face suddenly turned pale. Nam rushed over, picked up the phone, and asked,
"What's wrong, Dad?"
Mother felt worried. "What are you talking about?" Dad started shivering.
It's all because of the COVID-19 outbreak. The cross-border trade has been tightened, so all the orders have been canceled. Our fruits can no longer be exported.
Nam's mother cried. "Oh no! What will we do with the hundreds of acres of dragon fruits?" Schools all around the country were temporarily closed due to the COVID-19 epidemic, including the school Nam attends. This gave Nam the free time to be able to help his parents carry the dragon fruit to the city in hopes that someone would buy them. Unfortunately, after many hours wandering the streets trying to sell the dragon fruit, Nam had not sold enough. This made Nam very worried for his parents' future. He was so upset that he burst into tears, thinking about what would happen to his family during this difficult time. Nam's crying caught the attention of a man nearby. The man approached and asked the little boy what had happened. After hearing Nam's story, the man felt sorry for Nam and gave him a loaf of delicious bread to comfort him, and even offered to buy his whole basket of dragon fruit. It turned out that the man was a famous baker in the city with the nickname Bread King. That night, the Bread King thought about the story of Nam's family. He wondered if there was any way to rescue the dragon fruit and help decrease the effect of the COVID-19 epidemic on the farmers. Suddenly, an idea came to mind. He happily shouted,
"That's right! Why don't we make dragon fruit bread?"
He began his first experiment to make dragon fruit bread without hesitation. After only 2 failed batches, he found a perfect recipe, and the first dragon fruit bread was born. It seemed that almost nobody could resist the light pink inside and crispy crust of the dragon fruit bread. Every day, long lines formed in front of Bread King's store, eagerly waiting to buy loaves of yummy and eye-catching dragon fruit bread. The Bread King publicly shared the recipe for the dragon fruit bread, expressing a desire to give other struggling farmers a helping hand in the COVID-19 epidemic. He even introduced and began exporting the dragon fruit bread to other countries in the region and around the world. Hearing the news about the dragon fruit bread, Nam's father held his hand and emotionally said,
"Our family is saved!"
That's right, and not just our family, but hundreds of other dragon fruit farmers as well, Mom emotionally stated. Nam hugged his parents and said,
"We must be grateful to the Bread King, right, Mom and Dad?"
There was a kind, childless old couple. They wished they had a child, even a tiny one. One day, a fairy came by the window and heard the couple talking about wanting a child. She decided to grant their wish. 9 months and 10 days later, the old woman gave birth to a very small baby. They decided to name him Tiny. As time went on, Tiny did not grow. He stayed the same size as he had when he was born. Every day, Tiny rode on his father's shoulders when the father did gardening. Also, Tiny enjoyed watching his mother cooking in the kitchen. One day, Tiny saw that other boys of his age were going out into the world to find work. He said to his parents, "I want to find a job so that I can help to build you a new house." Tiny's parents were concerned, but decided to let him go. His father said, "Son, you can use this bowl and this set of chopsticks as a boat to reach the city." Tiny's mother said, "Here is a needle you can use to protect yourself." Tiny set off on his boat and rowed to the city. Tiny came to a palace. At the gate of the palace, Tiny asked a guard for a job, but the guard said, "You are too small to do anything." Tiny did not give up. He jumped over the guard's foot and ran into the palace. Tiny came towards a baker and asked for a job, but the baker said, "You are too small to work here. Let's find the king. He may give you a job." Tiny thanked her and looked for the king. Tiny finally found the king. He said, "Your Majesty, I know that I am small, but I want to get a job so I can help my parents build a new house." The king thought for a while.
is one thing you can do. I need someone to help take care of my daughter, the princess. But I must warn you, she is very stubborn."
When the princess saw Tiny, she laughed and said, "What could you do for me? You are the smallest person I have ever seen." One day, while the princess and Tiny was walking in the forest, a robber came and kidnapped the princess. Tiny yelled, "Stop! Don't you dare take her from me!" Tiny quickly climbed up the robber. Then he stuck the needle that his mother gave him into the robber's tongue. The robber yelled and ran away. The princess was grateful and said, "Thank you, Tiny. I will ask my father to reward you." The princess saw the hammer that the robber left. It looked like it might be valuable, so she wanted to take it back to the castle. So she said to Tiny, "I wish you could carry the hammer back to the castle." As soon as Tiny touched the hammer, in a puff of smoke, he became a tall, handsome man. It turned out the hammer the robber left was magic, but the robber did not know. The princess fell in love with Tiny and asked the king to let them marry. The king gladly agreed and arranged for the wedding. After the wedding, they went back to Tiny's home, where they lived happily ever after. There was an old man that had 3 beautiful daughters. The youngest one, named Beauty, was very kind and obedient. She also loved flowers, especially roses. When his business did not go well, the father and his daughters moved to a distant land and lived in a small house. One day, the father went into town to work. Before leaving, he asked his daughters what they wanted. The oldest daughter said, "I want a necklace." The middle daughter said, "I want a new dress." But Beauty only wanted some rose seeds. The father could not buy rose seeds for Beauty that day. On his way home, he stopped at a castle that was surrounded by roses. He decided to pick some roses for Beauty. Just then, a huge beast appeared behind the father and roared,
"How dare you come into my castle?"
Terrified, the father said,
"Please forgive me. I just wanted to pick some roses for my youngest daughter." "You have daughters?"
the beast asked and thought for a while. Then he said,
"Bring your youngest daughter to me. If not, I will lock you up and kill all your daughters."
The father thought, "As soon as I get home, I will take my daughters and go to a faraway land where the beast will never find us." So he promised the beast that he would bring the beast his youngest daughter, and the beast let him go. When the father arrived home, he told Beauty everything. She said, "Don't worry, father. I will go to the castle. This is the only way to protect ourselves." The next day, Beauty and her father went to the castle. Beauty was afraid when she saw the beast at the gate. She sadly bid her father goodbye and went into the castle. Beauty was surprised that the beast was nice to her. Every morning, he gave her a rose and listened to her reading books. Soon, Beauty was no longer afraid of the beast. One night, while reading, Beauty started to cry. The beast asked,
"What's wrong?"
She told the beast that she missed her family, so the beast decided to send her home for 3 days. Beauty enjoyed happy time with her father and 2 sisters. After 3 days, she kept her promise and went back to the beast's castle. When Beauty returned to the castle, she found the beast lying at the table, surrounded by many drawings of her. He missed Beauty so much that he had become very ill during her absence. Beauty helped the beast get into bed. She said to the beast, "Please wake up. Don't leave me." But the beast did not move. Beauty started to cry. Her tears fell on the beast's eyes. Suddenly, the beast turned into a handsome prince. He said, "Thank you, Beauty. It is your kindness and love that broke the witch's spell on me. Please, stay here with me forever." Beauty agreed to marry the prince, and they lived happily ever after.